Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon. We're just starting now.
Welcome.
Welcome to our weekly interdisciplinary seminar series. Welcome to today's session. So on behalf of the university and on behalf of the Education and Socioeconomic Research Institute, ESRI, it's my great pleasure to invite you today and also invite my colleague, Mr. Samuel Mundua, who has a fascinating presentation for us. So when I saw the title of his proposed presentation, I said, Christmas has come early this year, because in the research world and in academia, this is exactly the kind of presentation that we hope to be able to participate in. So thank you very much. I'll just go through the bio of Mr. Mundua. Thank you also for those who are online right now, joining us remotely. So Mr. Samuel Williams Mundua is a PhD candidate of communication at the University of South Africa. He is a lecturer of journalism at the University of Seychelles in the Faculty of Arts and Social Development. He previously worked as head of Department of Media Studies and senior lecturer of Media Studies at Bayan University in Oman. He's a member of the International Media Management Academic Association, IMMAA. Mr. Mundua is also a member of the Arab European Association for Media and Communication Researchers. His area of expertise includes strategic media management, media convergence and digital journalism, media literacy, communication, public relations, journalism, education, media and communication research. It's such a great pleasure to welcome you today and to follow the presentation. So thank you very much, Samuel. Please come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Christine, for those wonderful and motivating words, and for the warm welcome to this presentation. I want to add my voice onto Christine's and welcome the participants or those following us online. You're most welcome. I had particularly invited my former colleagues, Professor Rahul Amin from Akajay University in India. Prof, if you've joined us, you're most welcome. I also have Ms. Doreen Akello from the Sultanate of Oman. I hope she is joining us, or she's already there. You're most welcome. And of course, the Dean and the Director of Creole Languages Institute, Dr. Penda, you're most welcome. And the Director of Berry, Dr. Jerome is here as well. And the Director of Eseri, Christine, who has introduced me. You're most welcome. I am here to share something that is passionate to both the student community and to the faculty members. The student community, especially the postgraduate students, because it's a craft. Academic writing is a craft that they need to engage in, or they have to engage in. And for those who are already into the academia, it is something that we need to keep on reminding ourselves of the rules of academic writing, and we need to really follow them, because learning is a process which we need to continuously engage in. So that's why we came up with this topic, to reflect, ourselves so as to move on into becoming or bettering ourselves into this territory. So allow me to continue with a short motivation that when you're talking about academic and scholarly writing, you are basically talking about the manner of your writing. that makes you succeed in whatever you're doing as a student into your academics and as a faculty member in assessing and writing your research papers, making presentations. They are very, very key to your success. You may have all the knowledge, but if you do not know how to express that knowledge using the academic language, then you may not be as successful as someone who does. So in this business, we are dealing with words. What are our tools, our academic tools, tools of the trade? We need to understand how to use these words in expressing our points of view. So that must be put clearly. And when we're talking about academic and scholarly writing, we are basically looking at writing style which requires adherence to specific rules by and for people who are in the academia. You may have students, professors, researchers, research institutes as a target audience of academic and scholarly writing. So we, all our writing as academicians, as students who are aspiring to become academicians, we have these as whenever we engage in writing scholarly piece or academic writing, we target to reach these people. So we realize that they are our target that we need to always engage with. So what is academic writing? We will look at academic writing as something that, what I shared here is not so much visible, but it's all about structured writing that has evidence, that is critical, that is balanced, that is objective, that is formal, and also precise. So as you express in yourself, you need to look into all these aspects of academic writing. So to go back, it's a writing style. Of course, there are several styles of writing. There's fiction, there is non-academic writing, but here we are basically focusing on academic writing, which is very, very specific. And what do we mean here? When we're engaging in academic writing, we need to look at the parts of academic writing. What really forms the academic writing? We usually look into the argument. What is the argument that you're writing in your academic, in your piece? We look at the paragraphs. How are you developing those paragraphs? We will later on look at the technicalities of developing paragraphs in order to qualify your stance in an academic writing. Of course, we do not write from, whatever we write should have evidence. So what you state must be backed up by evidence, usually for supporting your arguments. Why are you saying that, and what supports your argument? And then very important that when you are dealing with academic writing, your voice, the voice that should have quoted it, because we can't listen, but somehow we can literally listen that this is someone speaking. But in this form, it's in a written form that we get to know now. This is the writer's voice. This is the author. He has come in amidst other people's views and all that. So these are the areas that we need to look into. So let's move into the first one, argument or argumentative writing. Argumentative writing is that kind of writing which involves investigating an issue, taking a stance on an issue, generating and evaluating a multitude of evidence in a logical manner to support the overall claim or focus of your academic writing. So how do you build up all those evidence? We're looking into the details of what kind of evidence are we talking about when dealing with academic writing. So argumentative writing is meant to persuade the people to see your study's point of view. Later on, we will, much as I've used the word to persuade, we would look at how academic writing differs from persuasive writing. That should be clearly spelled out. So, but here we are saying that when you engage in argumentative writing, your idea is to win over the reader into taking the position you have decided to follow. We also have argumentative writing as a means of expressing the point of view on a subject where the argument has to be specific, reasoned, and supported with evidence. So you can see that it's not just writing for oblivion, it must be backed up with evidence. So when you look at what I hinted shortly a while ago, you see that argumentative is not the same as persuasive writing. So academic writing is argumentative and not necessarily persuasive, although the idea is in your writing to persuade the reader to really accept or take your point of view. But then it is not persuasive. Why? Persuasive writing is mostly one-sided and uses passion and emotion to sway readers' loyalty. Now, when you look at academic writing, we started by saying it's objective, structured, logical, it has to be backed up by evidence and all that. So here we see how it differs from persuasive writing. So argumentative writing is therefore more structured and tries to look at critical issues from multiple angles. So that is very, very important. You don't just bring up one evidence and you feel it qualifies what you're saying. No, it has to be multiple. So this bring in the debate, the aspect of debate in your academic writing, counter debating and arguments. So how do we then develop the argumentative writing? How do we engage in argumentative writing? Of course, the first thing I should have pointed out is that when you are engaging in an argumentative writing, it calls for your reading. You need to read before you write, because you need to see what others are saying about the point of view you want to express. So that calls for you to engage in a reading. And if you read, or after you've read, you need to summarize and synthesize what you've read, because I'm moving towards how you will eventually bring in your voice. So in your own words, summarize and synthesize the key findings relevant to your study by asking, what do we know about the immediate area that I'm trying to bring up? That's what I'm saying. You need to read up more so that you get the ideas that are out there about what you're writing. Or what are the key arguments, key characteristics, key concepts that are being expressed in what is already known about what I'm writing in my academic in my academic writing. So what are the existing debates, theories that apply to what I'm trying to argue about? We use theories as a lens into trying to explain what we are saying. Okay, so in the area I'm expressing, what are the different points of views and the overall debate that have swayed most of the ideas and opinions that I'm trying to investigate about? So what common methodologies are being used? So all these questions will help you out into summarizing and synthesizing what other people have done, what theories are out there, what concepts are out there on what you are investigating or writing about. So they are very, very important. Why? Because it is placing you, by summarizing or synthesizing, you're placing yourself into that community, okay, of the writers who have written in the area you're trying to develop into. It's not just only about summarizing and synthesizing. You also need to compare and critique. Okay? Here you need to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses of the work of others. Why do you need to do that? Because see, you are trying to front an argument where you are going to acknowledge that, yes, I have this, but also some other people have said this and that. But you need to bring them out and then you compare. Who is closer to you? What did they miss out on what you're trying to say? And here you need to evaluate the strengths and weaknesses, how the different studies relate. How do they relate? They may relate in terms of convergence and divergence of what they are arguing about. They may agree on some of the points or they may disagree. All this you need to compare and critique. And then what views needs further testing. Okay. Sometimes you may find that some of the points that have been expressed are not thorough. They lack a lot of things that needs further investigation. So you need to dig up more and find out. So what evidence is lacking? What argument is inconclusive, contradicting, or too limited? All these questions, as you ask, you are going to come up with your own voice. So what research designs or methods have been seen as unsatisfactory and all that? So when you engage in this academic writing, sometimes most times we do research. So other people do research, they may define approaches, but they may be talking about the same thing. So this is where this comes in. What research designs or methods seem unsatisfactory when you are dealing with that. Also, we do analysis, which is putting it all together. Once you have summarized, synthesized, compare, and critique your chosen material, you may now consider whether these studies, number one, demonstrate the topic's chronological development, show different approaches to the problem. Do you remember we are saying you've got critique, you compare. This, you need to bring it up. They center on seminal study or studies. All this is also important. And then you need to demonstrate whether there's a paradigm shift in the different arguments or the reasons. So what do researchers know about these fields and what do they not know about this field? Why should we further study this topic? What will my study contribute to the area of the things that are not known? I think in academia, this is what most people call the void or the gap that you are trying to put forward. So all this, what we started with, analyzing, synthesizing, evaluating, comparing, and all that. As you do that, the reason you're doing that is to bring in what they call your voice. And some people have called that the golden thread. Because it's not about quoting other studies. This one say that, this one say this. What is your place in all this? So that's when your voice comes in. We call it the golden thread. It needs to run through your arguments, through your academic writing. Now, there are mainly two ways through which we identify the golden thread or your voice. Number one, it is through the authorial voice. Authorial voice is the voice of the author, you who is writing this piece. So this is the unique voice that you as the author or writer has. It's your style, how you're coming in, you know, how you're coming in to explain now after you've critiqued, you've criticized, you have synthesized, you have compared, you have analyzed and all that. So you have come up with something that you want to place in your writing. So that's how we come into start listening into your voice and we hear it. So the more things you do, right, grammatically and so on, the more license your readers give you to be creative. So here we are going to listen to you speaking throughout, but in form of writing. When you come in with words, such as therefore, the studies by so and so may have attempted to do this, but it did not satisfy the qualifications of this kind of argument. So we want to hear such words in your writing instead of just replicating or pointing out what others have said about this. What do you say, you as the author? So the authorial voice is very, very important. And then the other one is the authoritative voice. The authoritative voice. Now, I'm sure those who are online and those who are here, we are all not from the same field or specializations. In your own special areas of specialization, you speak as an expert because you qualify to get there. You're practicing that area. And therefore, when you are writing, speak like an expert. So here you are the expert, write like one. Okay. You are from the environmental studies or environmental specialization, speak like one, write like one. As a subject area expert, you should be assertive, simple, and clear in your writing. I may feel very comfortable to talk about media studies, journalism, media management, public relations, and all that. But I may not be assertive and all that when I'm talking about issues of climate change, the technicalities, and all that. But there are those who are into that area, they can speak. And then when they do that, they are bringing in the authoritative voice. So it's always important to look into these two areas, your voice, the golden thread. We will be seeing the examples of how we can apply them, and authorial voice and the authoritative voice. It's very, very important to bring them out. So let's see. For example, you may say researcher A says move left, researcher B says move right, researcher C or author C says do not move at all. Do not move at all. So the other idea says left is the best way. The other says right, right is the best way. And the other says being neutral is the best way. Those are their assertions. Now, for you, you are trying to talk about things of how to move. Now, after looking at what they are saying, you may come in now to bring in your voice. Words such as in summation, when the researcher, the researcher, put everything together, moving left and then right, before you make a decision not to move at all, is the position I suggest as most prudent to adopt in relation to the topic that I'm exploring. Now, here you feel, yes, now you have come in, you're saying something about the issue. Let's look at more examples, and here we are looking at how to bring about cohesion in a paragraph. How do you bring in cohesion as you maintain your voice into this? So, although the government was elected for a 3-year term, the Prime Minister decided to hold an early election. At the same time, the opposition parties, which had anticipated this move, had been planning their own election campaigns. So, the first line was most likely a different idea. It was talking about election. The government was elected, the election of the government, and the term, of the Prime Minister. And then the second one is talking about planning for elections. Now, someone used their voice to put these different, statements into one. And this is what we refer to as the cohesion. He just used the word although, and then the other side at the same time to bridge the two different ideas. So it's very important that when we want to maintain our voice in our argumentative writing, we also need to be cohesive when we are expressing or writing these paragraphs. Let's look at this. They may not be clear, but I'll be able to read in for you. We're trying to look at your voice. We are trying to look at argumentative writing, and at the same time, we are looking at different paragraphs. Okay, so usually when you're writing an argumentative piece, the first thing is to develop your stance. We call it the topic sentence. What is your stance? What's your position? What's the point of view? You state it clearly from the onset. Okay, you state it clearly from the onset. So that becomes the stance, the topic sentence. We are talking about the theme of procrastination. So here, this person says, procrastination is a problem that is far too common among today's youth, and it can lead to serious consequences. This is what the person is stating. It is a problem that is far too common among today's youth, and it can lead to serious consequences. Someone might think otherwise, but it may not. Someone may agree with this person, but this person doesn't now stop there. In the paragraph development, the person continues to bring in more reasons as to why they are saying so. So here we refer to this as the evidence that you bring in. So procrastination is a form of self-sabotage, whereby people put off important tasks until the last minute, and as a result, do not achieve their full potential. It can manifest itself in many different ways, from not studying for an exam, for instance, to not filing taxes on time. Procrastination is a sign of lack of self-discipline, and it can be extremely damaging to a person's future. Now, you're trying to bring different ideas to support the first topic, the topic sentence. Okay? Here, another form of evidence would be if this person had cited whose ideas, who say that it's damaging to the person's future, who say that it can lead to failure and all that. So you need to put that citation as evidence. So while some may argue that procrastination, now this is the rebuttal, may argue that procrastination can be beneficial for creativity, this is not an excuse for not completing tasks. In reality, procrastination can lead to stress, guilt, and anxiety, which can have a detrimental effect on creativity. Again, the writer brings now the other side, that much as his or her stance was that it's not good, someone is bringing it in a positive way. But again, the writer rebuts it or brings in a rebuttal by saying that much as you say it is a good way for creativity, but it has some side effects, which is also supporting the first topic, the topic sentence. So procrastination can also have serious long-term consequences, such as loss of job opportunities, financial problems, decreased academic success. All this sort of they're explaining as part of the development of this paragraph. And then they give examples to support. Okay, for example, if a student procrastinates on studying for a test rather, they may find themselves unable to pass the exam if they are delayed, they are not prepared, and all that. Now, again, number one and number two topic sentence is linked up together to support the first sentence by the last summary of this paragraph. So it goes that in summary, procrastination is a serious problem that can have far-reaching and long-term consequences. It is important to recognize the signs of procrastination and to take action to prevent it from occurring. By developing self-discipline and good time management, it is possible to stay on track and reach one's full potential. This is directly linked to the first sentence. So, cohesion is there, your voice is there, the argument is there, and you're brought in different sides of the issue. Remember, we say it has to be objective, it has to be balanced, it has to be, written in a well coherent manner. So cohesion in the writing Cohesion refers to the way we use vocabulary and grammatical structures to make connections between ideas within a text. It provides flow and sequence to your work and helps make your paragraphs clear for the reader. So without cohesion, somehow the reader may get lost in reading and all that. So cohesion is very, very important, like I earlier on pointed out, because it helps you to establish your voice. It also helps you to glue together different ideas, and most importantly, to keep the reader on track. The reader keeps on moving along with you. So examples of transitional expressions that can help, there are very many that can help in cohesion is what you call idea connectors. For instance, if you're using the word and, that signals that you're adding an information. If you say, however, you're bringing in a contrast, you're bringing in different ideas. If you say, therefore, it shows that there is a cause and effect. You have pointed out in the story of procrastination. Therefore, would be very helpful here to show that procrastination leads to failure. Procrastination leads to guilt. Procrastination leads to lost job losses and all that. So therefore can be helpful to show the cause and effect. Although is to qualify your argument. Now that's usually when you're brought in someone else's idea, and then you want to appreciate, you want to show that you acknowledge there are also people who have contrasting ideas to what I'm trying to argue about. But then you bring in your voice with words to qualify your argument. Although, because it's to show also cause and effect, while it's used to signal concurrency, which means that much as sometimes work is being done, there is also procrastination amid this all. So whilst there is procrastination, sometimes work is not done or something like that. So concurrence is something that happens alongside each other. So these are to achieve cohesion. One needs to use transitional expressions and sentences. To our postgraduate students, I would recommend, and also to those in academics, that there is what we call Grammarly phrase bank. Grammarly phrase bank has a lot of ways that you can use to enhance your writing for variety of expressions, that you do not keep on repeating yourself with the same words. However, no. The phrase bank has a variety, and it categorizes different reasons when and how to bring. Are you rebutting? Are you agreeing? Are you disagreeing with an argument? So what are the phrases you can use in such instances? These are very, very important when we are dealing with cohesion. So all these are part of the argumentative writing that we need to engage in, especially when we are dealing with developing our arguments, using paragraphs, using our voice, using evidence. I believe this would be very, very helpful when we are advancing argumentative writing. Now, most of the argumentative writing is borrowed from three philosophers that I want to share with you here. What I've dealt with in the first part was mainly looking at what academic writing is. How do we develop the academic writing? We looked at the paragraphs, we looked at the evidence, we looked at your voice. How do you bring in your voice? Now, we want to see that these ideas, where did they come from? They are mostly borrowed from philosophers such as Aristotle, and they call this classical writing style, or Aristotelian writing style from Aristotle, the philosopher. So here, the writing style, the argumentative writing style, involves presenting the main argument, like what we saw, the first example of procrastination, stating your stance, bringing up the evidence to support your stance. And this is usually at the basic level, which is undergrad. This is the kind of argument that is accepted at undergrad, and it may not necessarily be accepted at the postgraduate level. And that. So this is classical. We call it Aristotelian writing style. And the most undergraduate students use this style. They present their main argument, they state the reason, and then they back it up. Yes. Classical argumentative writing styles, you introduce your issue. The idea is to present your readers with your main point and then dig into it, like we have seen in the previous example. In this classical argumentative writing, you also present your case by explaining the issue in detail and why something must be done or a way of thinking is not working. So you're trying to front an argument and explain it. So this will take place over several paragraphs as you speak about this issue. Okay. Then here, also address the opposition. Use a few paragraphs to explain the other side. Refute the opposition 1 point at a time. So it's like we say, you acknowledge what is contrary to what you're expressing, but then you support it, why yours is the correct one and what the other person is bringing up may not be qualified in relation to what you're trying to put across. You also provide proof. In classical, you provide proof. After you address the other side, you will want to provide clear evidence that your side is the best side. Then you present your conclusion. In your conclusion, you should remind your readers of your main point or thesis and summarize the key points of your argument. So this is the classical, and these are usually how they are presented. And I'm sure most of you have at one point followed those lines. Psychotherapist Carl Rogers came up with an argumentative writing style, which was also adopted by a number of people in academia, and up to now they are using, they're referring it to as Rogerian writing style. So if someone say use Rogerian writing style, they basically mean what psychotherapist Carl Rogers came up with. His idea was that you present a statement, sometimes they call it the thesis statement. What are you saying? What do you say? What's your point that you want to bring up? Okay, so acknowledge the opposing side, just like the classical of the argument. State your point of view and explain why yours is the most beneficial to the study. Again, in terms of levels, master's and doctoral studies usually adopt Rogerian, unlike the undergrad, which usually applies the classical. What does the Rogerian argument state? It says you have to come up with a statement of your problem. I'm sure those who do research, you know what the statement of your problem is. This must come up very, very clearly in your writing. You present your argument as a problem that is in need of a solution, and you raise the possibility of a positive change. Those who are doing your dissertation and thesis, you basically that before you are accepted to go ahead with your academic writing, this must come out very clearly. You must show that there is a problem you want to write about. There's a problem you want to investigate. So it comes out in a thesis statement. So thesis statement must be clear. Sometimes you may raise an issue or a problem, which really is not a problem. You really need to make sure that's a problem that requires a solution. So the Rogerian argument says that you need to summarize statement of views of the opposition. Be as accurate and neutral as possible. Again, I relate this into academic writing, especially when you're writing your research papers or your dissertation and thesis. You need to bring up, that's why I say that do preliminary literature review and find out what other people are saying about this problem you want to write about or you're raising it. So this is where it requires that you need to look at opposing views. They must be there. But then in the opposing views, you will end up finding that your problem still stands out. Even if they're opposing it, it still stands out. So statement of understanding demonstrates that you are capable of listening without judging, and that you have given a fair hearing to those who differ from you, the people you most need to reach. Because those become your target audience. Those that do not necessarily agree with what you're saying, you need also to show them there is this other part of point of view that they need to also consider. So that marks up the statement of understanding. And then statement of your position. Having won the attention of both opponents and those who have no position on the issue, then you need to explain your views. Let me hint on slightly here that you have explored what other people are saying on your topic or on your research. You have heard what they are saying variously. Others agree with you, others disagree with you. Now that gives you a position now to really come up boldly and express your position and really make sure, bring it out to show that, yes, there's really an issue. Number one, there's a problem that it still stands that needs to be established and no solution needs to be formed, for it. So statement of your position. And then statement of context, show that you understand there are situations in which the opponent's views are valid. Do not concede, though, that their views are always right, but recognize those conditions or contexts under which you share their views. I was sharing with a professor. We are trying to relate that, yes, someone may do research on a similar topic in Netherlands, and another person may do it in Kenya, for instance. The circumstances in the Netherlands might be different from the circumstances in Kenya, much as they are dealing or talking about the same issues. And this brings in the issue of context. So that's why most people say this, and that, the case of Kenya, this, and that, the case of Netherlands. So it is very, very important to also look at those contexts. There might be similarities, there might also be differences in context. So that's very, very important. Statement of benefits. Appeal to the self-interest of your opponent by showing how they will benefit from accepting your position. You conclude with your thesis stated in as positive manner, in as positive manner as possible. So you go back to the problem. You also show them that, yes, I have heard your point of views, what you have said or what you have stated, but I still point out that this is important, even for you to really consider and look at this. So there, you are trying to come up with a very strong argument in your writing under the Rogerian writing style. So the third one, I'd like to look at also, it's a master's and doctoral. It is called Tolmin, argumentative writing style according to Tolmin. Tolmin presents statement, presents grounds to back up the statement, and then justify how the grounds are linked to the statement. This reminds me of one of my professors, Professor Evelyn Griff. She says that when you bring it up, then you better back it up. Whatever you state, you need to back it up. Don't just bring something and it's not backed up. So I feel that is important, especially when it comes to Tolmin. So he developed it, philosopher Stephen Tolmin. His method is a style of argumentation that breaks arguments down into 6 component parts. The first one is the claim. grounds, warrant, qualifier, rebuttal, and backing. In tool method, every argument begins with three fundamental parts: the claim, the grounds, and the warrant. So, well, what is the claim? The claim is the assertion that authors, you remember I saying, you write in academic writing, you write with authorial voice, you also write with authoritative voice. So in that, what is your claim? The assertion that allows authors to prove to their audience it is, in other words, the main argument. We have seen this from the various steps. We call it the stance, your point of view, your thesis statement, and all that. Then the second one is the grounds of an argument. These are the evidence and facts that help support the claim. And then the third one is the warrant, which is either implied or stated explicitly to the assumption that links the grounds to the claim. So this comes into the warrant. And the assumptions and the ground to which you support why you have stated so. So we look at this. I have used this in terms of trying to look at what Twinbee meant. So claim additional research on computer. So here, this is how it starts. A thorough review of the literature has shown you that no further research has been done to clarify the effects CMC can have in personal relationships. Paper lacks a certain perspective. More research would be beneficial to prove its claim. Now, the warrant are supported by the grounds. In their paper, Twinbee et al. Discussed how email communication are inferior means of maintaining personal relationships. However, their study does not account for technological, demographic, or morality limitations. So acknowledging the other opposing view, but also bringing in, you maintaining your stance. Qualifier, why do you say so? And this qualifies as a claim. So in all likelihood, additional research on computer-mediated communication needs to be conducted to better understand how online interaction affects relationships. And then the rebuttal, unless there is new research on this topic, that has yet to be published. So you are trying to maintain your position by saying that, yes, this is what we claim, much as you have looked at different sites, you've seen, and your claim, you have qualified your claim, it has gained a warrant, and it has been backed up. So all these are very, very important when you look at Toulmin's argumentative writing style. As I end towards the last slides, I'm going to end with what most of you should be familiar with, that gentleman, Bloom. So we also use Bloom's taxonomy in academic writing. Here we look at it, especially when we are dealing with higher order thinking skills. You know as well as I do that whenever you're writing, you're engaging in thinking at the same time. So there is that linkage that comes in when we are talking about higher order thinking or academic writing. So it starts from the least towards the highest. So the list, the bottom, the rock bottom is according to taxonomy, is that the skill when you are trying to remember and writing is, the first one is to remember the list from it's down from the list. You remember, which is basically about defining, duplicating, listing, memorizing, repeating, state. And you remember in your undergrad or the lower levels of your studies, they will ask you questions such as explain the meaning of this and that, define this and that, just trying to test your comprehension of what has been, learned. The second one is to understand. Here we classify, we describe, we discuss, we explain, we identify, we also locate and recognize, and then we report, we select and we translate. So all this, we look at it in that. And then the third one is to execute. I'll explain slightly, short in a while. To implement, to solve, to use, to interpret, demonstrate, to operate, to schedule, to sketch. This is how you, when you're writing, you need to bring in this. And then 4 is to analyze. As we're going higher, we looked at analyzing when we started the presentation. So by analyzing, we mean that you organize, you have to look at different arguments, point of views, you organize, you relate, you compare, you contrast. We also looked at that. You distinguish, you examine, you experiment, you question, and then you test. And the other one is to evaluate. You appraise, you argue, you defend, you judge, you select, you support, you value, you critique, you weigh the arguments and all that. And then the most highest is to create. You design, you assemble, you construct, you conjecture, you develop, you formulate, you author, you investigate. Now, this is where I would bring in the number 6, that most PhDs are grounded on number 6, knowledge creation. That you have looked at all these studies, you have investigated, you have done empirical studies, you have argued throughout your literature, and finally you have come up with something new. And that is the creation. So you need to create. So just like I've explained, in Bloom's taxonomy, when you are applying it, you need to recall foundational factual information, names of places, people, dates, formulas, definitions, components, and all that. And then you need to comprehend, to understand. It means that we can explain main ideas and concepts and make meaning by interpreting, classifying, summarizing, inferring, comparing, and explaining. Those who do data analysis, presentation, and interpretation, you understand what I mean. Yeah. And then you apply. Application allows us to recognize or use concepts in real-world situations and to address when, where, and how to employ methods and ideas. And then number 4, analysis means breaking a topic or idea into components or examining a subject from different perspectives. It helps us to see how the whole is created from the parts. Okay, when you are doing your studies, for instance, you have issued your questionnaire, you're doing a survey, there are different components of the survey that you're trying to use to understand a phenomenon. So out of all this, you're going to come up with the different parts and put them together and see what meaning it creates. It is easy to miss the big picture by getting stuck at a lower level of thinking and simply remembering individual parts without seeing how they are connected. Analysis helps reveal the connections between facts. So when you just present your data and say, this is what I found out, it still doesn't make meaning unless you analyze it, then it will make meaning. You synthesize. Synthesize means considering individual elements together for the purpose of drawing conclusions, identifying themes, or determining common elements. Here you want to shift from parts to the whole. And then last but not least, you need to look at evaluation, which means making judgments about something based on a criteria or standards. This requires checking and critiquing an argument or concept to form an opinion about its value. And then often there is not a clear or correct answer to this type of question. Rather, it's about making a judgment and supporting it with the reasons and evidence. So you're trying to bring in different perspectives as long as you back it up with the evidence. Evidence can be from literature, evidence can be an example, evidence can be statistics, evidence can be anecdotal, that is, that is understandable. So all this will help you in evaluating. So the last one is to create. It involves putting elements together to form a coherent or functional whole. Creating includes reorganizing elements into a new pattern or structure through planning. This is the highest and most advanced level of Bloom's taxonomy. So you have done your academic writing, your research and all that. So what have you come up with? You have created. You started with your first argument, the thesis statement, the problem you are trying to investigate, and all that. Now, as I end, I need to mention this, that what makes academic writing successful? Logic. Does it flow coherently? Is it supported by statistics, by evidence to qualify what you're saying? Proof and reasoning. This is what Aristotle refers to as logos. If you bring it up, you better back it up. If it was important enough to bring up, it should be important enough to expound on. Remember, you are the authoritative voice. Be assertive and show your believability. Illustrate you are well-rounded and have deep-rooted knowledge of the field and your topic. Show your study, and what you say in it is the answer that is needed. Don't let your readers get lost anywhere in the writing process. I thank you very much. Thank you very much. So now, I think we can have Q and A session. And those online, you are free to join in with your comments, your questions, and your contributions. Yes, Dr. Chope. Thank you.
And for making something that is, I must say, quite difficult for a lot of people, and turning it into something so easy.
Yes.
And I'd like to have a copy of this because I'd like to go on spreading the word.
All right, Dr. Chope.
First it in your bedroom.
First sit in your bedroom. Okay.
The Bible according to Samuel. The Bible of writing.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Chope. That's why I mentioned, if I can remember, that we are discussing something, a business that we are into, our tools of the trade. It's like vehicles that need greasing. We write, we endure the academics, but some of these things still, we find them a little bit, some challenges here and there. So we need some refreshing into them. So you're right, we have to. I will definitely share this. I will also share the phrase bank with you, which will really help you into developing coherent arguments and a variety of phrases into your academic writing. Thank you so much. Yes, Doctor.
Thank you very much. It was very insightful. So most of the students, they battle with their English skills, which is a break towards what you showed.
Yes.
And one way to go around the problem is to let them work on tables where they can classify elements of different sorts, so that they can either organize how they feel is the most logical. But they can classify, they can organize within different standards in the table. What is an argument? What is their position? And so that they can better getting out the English skills of the board and just focusing on what is the essence of argument.
Yes, I entirely agree with you, Doctor. We look at this in terms of, there's a gentleman called Ben Key. He developed that tabular ways of putting different arguments. For instance, what is the thesis statement? What is the rebuttal? What is the conclusion? What is and then according to different authors. And then at the end of it all, students are able to compare which arguments agree with the other ones, which ones differ with the other one, and then they see how they can now come in with their voice, their stance, to flow into their assignments and their writing. I agree with you.
They can go to a mental map.
Yes.
Move from one to another and how to organize that.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, Doctor.
Thank you, Samuel. I would like to colleagues about the resolution. Perhaps what I should say is I wish that more students can attend.
Yes.
And in fact, I can see that you combine both the following part with some examples, which brings to my mind the possibilities of having something like that in terms of watch.
Yes.
To our students, then they can,
Pictures as well.
other choices as well,
So where's useful to learn?
Especially those with definition.
Yes, yes.
which would be quite interactive between yourself.
Yes.
As that's what we like joining as a team. Because
Yes.
I see some emotion to us, but not on us. It's very important. But perhaps that can be taken a bit further. For the benefit of I'm not sure if you are I'm really glad that you have seen.
Okay. Yes.
I said, I'm sure you will benefit. But hopefully, Christine, as I'm saying, you could.
Noted, and as you mentioned, the English component as well, so this is something that we can have.
Because there is a great need.
Yes.
It's been there for a long time at the university.
Yes.
Especially new students, and mature students who have not been in an academic context for a long time. They don't know how to even write a paragraph.
Yes.
So this was very, very comprehensive.
Thank you, Doctor. When I was developing this, I had as my target audience the faculty members and the students, especially at the postgraduate level. Yeah, because we teach them these things, and we also engage in academic writing, doing writing research papers and all that. So it was like hitting two birds with one stone. I expected the students to be here and or online. I hope some of them are, but thank you so much for representing them. Kristen, please make sure she gets the slides and the bank. Yes.
The articles and was writing essays as an article. I just wanted to from your perspective, like how do you ensure credibility and objectivity when incorporating sources into an academic article?
Okay, thank you very, very much. Actually, this is most of the problems we find with the students, that the credibility of their assignments are questioned by lecturers and professors because of what you've raised. In order to maintain, I will talk about, I'll divide them. First of all, credibility, and then I'll talk about objectivity. Credibility is brought in through what I have been sharing here, academic writing. Academic writing that observes the rules of the game. When we speak about academic writing, if you bring in someone else's idea, to back up your argument, you must acknowledge that this is not your argument, but you're using someone else's argument to support what you are saying. It's acceptable in academics. It's acceptable as long as you acknowledge and as long as you don't lift it, that idea directly as it is, and you put it in your paraphrase it, okay, and then cite where you got that from. If you have all this throughout your work, then you're going to run away from the issue of credit. Because the work, you need to acknowledge that. And then in academic honesty, you have to be honest with your work, you reference, and then you cite. And then objectivity is basically looking at, in your work, have you looked at the other side of the argument, like I explained earlier on? Because I'm sure you will not be the first person to talk about the topic that you're raising, but there is some angle that you're bringing in your writing, or an angle which is somehow different from what others are saying. So you also need to maintain that and then show that others have also talked about it. And then for you, yours differs from others in this way or the other way. And you continue maintaining that. And then most importantly, when you want to maintain objectivity, your voice, the authorial voice and the authoritative voice. If you're doing, what course are you doing?
Administration.
Business administration. You must be expressing those ideas in a language that is in line with the business administration, because you're working or you're studying towards becoming an expert in that area. So that is authoritative. So let the professors see that this student is really writing this assignment like a student from the area of business administration. I hope I've answered you. Thank you so much. Yes, Doctor.
Current new development in culinary research,
Yes.
in higher education, and I'm referring to chapter 2.
Yes.
And before that, we worked very hard to ensure accountability, objectivity, and to respect the rules that help us. Now we have, we can add a few keywords, and then students can get this, and we're gonna have to start with that now. And it's a bit tricky as well, to find the voice, to be able to tell, this is not the student's voice,
Yes.
but what's happening? How would you deal with that when, in a context where you're training, you're doing workshops
Yes.
at this level?
That's very, very important. I wanted to, in my presentation, I wanted to put a delimitation that this presentation will not go beyond, will not handle the issues of ChatGPT and AI. But of course, I anticipated that let it come out in a way so I can hear what others are saying about it. But my opinion is that the use of AI in academic is an ongoing debate. As you all know, it's something that has come in, and people are still exploring and debating. How do we, exactly like you said, Dr. Zelin, identify that this is really the student's voice, not the voice of the student through AI, especially when we do not have mechanism to detect that. That is one of the biggest challenges that academics will have. Until ways or agreements will come in, or we find means like what turn it in, the ways through which turn it in help, that maybe something else would come up to not to avert some of the difficulties that academics are having with AI. But ideally, some voices say it is not bad to use AI, But then, how do we detect that this student, like you say, you're cited from somewhere and all that, that it's difficult or quite challenging to determine whether this is the student's voice, this is the student's voice generated by AI, because there will be no citation. That makes it challenging. So, of course, in your question, you brought out some of the remedies, workshops, trainings on AI. We had, I think, in our previous workshops we have been having. And in this interdisciplinary seminar series, we also had, I think, a presentation on AI. So it should be a continuous conversation until some sort of solutions are found. Yes.
So AI, you should not be that worried, because when you are about to see your exam, there will be no AI, and not only your paper, and
Yeah.
your paper. And this is something that I wanted to say, like, to react to us, like, what ethical consideration you need to scholarly writing, like, particularly in terms of intellectual property. Because nowadays, even if you are writing something, at some point, you will see that this is nothing to do. For example, when you are submitting your assignment on technically, they will always say student paper. Even sometimes if you are writing something, so what is your ethical consideration about this?
Okay. Number one, when we are interpreting Turnitin report, we usually talk about, mostly students confuse plagiarism with the similarity index. Yeah, so what we consider here is the similarity index. Do you know that if you have done an assignment and you run it through Turnitin, your own assignment, and then when we run it again, it will show like, you understand. So professors and lecturers understand that there will always be ways through which you can have a discussion with your lecturer using that similarity index. So you can determine that, yes, this is acceptable, this is not. But of course, it is indicated, the report speaks for itself. So there are those that can be excusable. Maybe other members.
So we make sure that this is select actually repeat it twice. So maybe there are index that actually object that marking doesn't information that is run properly, but then it will give you more or less. So you have the lectures and that kind of thing. A student person, 70%. I think it's removed.
Yeah, so it's all about how you interpret the similarity index. Yeah, but as a student,
Yeah. You go strategy, you want the military, but we went strategy, it's not necessarily captured on this, but we know when the strategy.
exactly, yes. Yeah. So I was saying that as a student, your role is really to make sure that you engage in academic writing, which will make you really, one of the things will make you automatically reduce the similarity index, you will escape plagiarism and all that. Yes, sir.
But to me, artificial intelligence is performing very well at writing text. And it can be also used as a tool to better perform, to generate different texts answering the same question, and look at how what is the difference between the text in order to understand how to improve on our writing. You must just learn how to domesticate artificial intelligence to improve yourself, to do your own work, rather than using that
Directly
and copy paste.
Yeah, that's right. Use artificial intelligence to improve yourself, to add your voice, but not to bring it as a whole article. What most students are doing. So that's acceptable. That's an acceptable use of AI.
Because we cannot find fight against
No,
it. We need to domesticate.
yes, and sensitize the students on how to apply it in
And
the,
the best use of it.
yes. Yes, Christine.
It's just thinking aloud about the authoritative voice and, the use of passive writing, the use of third-party writing. It's the norm for academic writing. However, there are still avenues where students may still use the word I, but I know in most forms, in most genres, I is discouraged.
Yes.
However, I have come across cases with, sort of the I language, or, and reading those, you get a stronger feel of the author. But I think the important thing is for students to abandon the I and to learn to use passive writing, but with a strong authoritative, a strong voice. So, do you have any feeling about, the use of I in academic writing as opposed to passive?
Yes, yes, I think, in academic writing, we encourage students to use active voice, first of all, rather than passive voice. So when you're using I, of course, it attaches to the authorial voice, you, the writer. But it's mostly encouraged that instead of I, if you're into, you can say the investigator, the researcher, the researcher found out that, the investigator found out that, it sounds more academic than I. I is more at the lower level. Yeah, in student essays and that, yeah. But in academic writing, it sounds much better if you use, the investigator, the researcher, rather than the I.
It also depends on this.
Yes.
On the display.
Because in science, you're never going to use I.
Mm.
We will use we, because generally you co-author the paper, you're part of the team. Or you use the passive voice to understand, but never use I. But I imagine that in journalism or in law, where you have to express your opinion, or the representative of the community, then you can use I with your problem.
But in science, if you're using we, it is also an active voice.
Yeah, it's
Well,
like I. It's in the family of I.
yes.
So why not the researchers, the investigators? Yeah. Any questions from those who are online? We are having an interesting question and answer session here.
They don't hear as much. They tend to disappear after
The presentation, okay. So any other submissions, any other?
I think
Yes.
this is fantastic. It also just occurred, just to say that as much as we master academic writing,
Yeah.
but one thing that sort of bogs most people down is just getting the citing, the referencing. Sometimes I don't know how, but a lot of people find it painful.
The reference.
Yeah.
Okay, now also, I think, I don't know if it's AI, but there are referencing tools also now. That,
And people in research industry and struggling with interview. All that mental challenges, that's my experience with supervising.
yeah.
Then the literature review can be really struggling.
Mm.
Even as lecturers sometimes when
Yeah.
teaching.
Yeah.
The literature review is
Yeah.
not struggling.
Yeah.
It's mostly on their strategy to find the papers, different papers.
Yeah.
They are lost into the amount of resources they can access. And that comes back to your question, actually. What is credible, what is not? What is purely scientific, what is the view of others. And then I often see students using or referencing Wikipedia, which is not clearly source. And it's kind of a good source of information most of the time, but it's not something that should be closed by academic writing.
And perhaps including some of the skills you talked about, rather than just listening.
Yes.
Literature.
Need.
They find it difficult to make the cohesion aspect.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
To have,
Exactly. You find some, he mentioned something in paragraph 1, it has appearing in another paragraph, there's no cohesion. Yes, that is very true. So if we can have a session for them in that, that would be very good as well. Because it's a challenge, a big problem for writing, especially literature review. Yeah, people do struggle.
No question, great presentation, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Anissa. Anissa, we got your message. But all in all, what I need to say is that we may talk about all these things. What is required is practice, practice, practice. At the end of it all, we may talk, we may say this, but without practicing it, we may not be as good in the trade as what we are saying here. So I would like to thank all of you for your time and your attention and for the good feedback you've given, and which will make me improve further into this, and then I'll be able to share with that. It's back to you, Christy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Samuel. I reinstate my earlier point that Christmas has come early for us. For the students, for the researchers, for the academic community, a very, very big thank you for this absolutely formidable presentation that has not just helped us with theoretical points, but it's been very practical, very hands-on as well. So, and you have, as my colleague, Dr. Shokri has said, you have formulated it in such a way that it looks so simple. We know that these are some of the most complex matters to grapple with. And you have made us enjoy, sort of looking at things in a simplistic manner and given us the philosophical background from the great philosophers as well. You made it look so contained and so, like I said, simplistic. But at the same time, I feel that we're very armed with a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, and also a lot of zeal to go and apply. Personally, I have learned a lot, and I have a lot to apply in my current work at the university and in my studies. So I thank you so very much on behalf of ESRI, on behalf of the university, and everyone here. I join to their voices in saying a huge thank you. And I wish you the best in the last legs of your PhD. Yeah, we have no worries for you. You're really on top of it. You're really on top of it. And thank you for everybody following us from remote. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for your participation.